All right, everybody, welcome to those of you who have just joined us to our webinar on how to position yourself for a promotion in 2021 and consequently make more money at work. So today we will be discussing strategies on how to set yourself up for a promotion, as well as some best practices on resume writing, networking, and online branding. But before we get started diving into all of the good stuff here, I'd like to take a moment to introduce myself and tell you a little bit more about who I am and what we do. So my name is Claire Burke. I am a certified professional resume writer and senior career services associate with Employment Boost. Here at Employment Boost, we are a full-service resume writing, outplacement, and career coaching firm. And we are lucky enough to work hand in hand with a number of executive search firms and recruiting companies as a subsidiary of Heavy Hitter Holdings. So the insights and the topics that we'll be discussing today have really been cultivated by these direct interactions with hiring professionals, with recruiters, to really give you an in-depth and cutting-edge knowledge of the job market and what you need to do to be attractive to these hiring professionals. If you have any questions about Employment Boost, about what we do, feel free to check out our website at employmentboost.com. And I will also be hosting a question and answer session at the end of this webinar to go over any questions that you may have about our company or about anything that we go over today in this webinar regarding positioning yourself for promotion at work. So if you have questions, feel free to hang on to them till the end and we will be sure to address them. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn and shoot me a message after our webinar if there's anything else that you had questions about or wanted to discuss in more depth. But for now, we'll get started on how to position yourself for a promotion at work. The way that we see it, there are 4 core pillars that go into your promotion eligibility. The first one being your performance, right? Goes without saying, your job performance plays a role in whether or not you will be asked for a promotion, right? Or given that promotion. For the sake of this webinar, we will assume that your job performance is wonderful, as I'm sure is the case. And we'll focus more on these other factors, namely your resume presentation, your organizational network, the relationships that you have, as well as your online branding and reputation. All of these components play a role in your promotion eligibility, and it's important to take a holistic approach, right, to really address all of these factors to put yourself in the best position moving forward. So again, those are the topics that we'll be discussing. If anybody has any questions about these, we are happy to expand upon them later on as well. But we'll get started. How do we position ourselves for a promotion? How is it done? What do you need to do? Well, the first step here is to announce your intent for a promotion, to make your intent known. So having an honest conversation with your supervisor. And this is not a one-time conversation. This should be a conversation that takes place over the course of weeks or even months, depending on the process of your organization. You know, promotions rarely happen overnight. It is often a process, and one that should be full of communication on your end and on the end of your supervisor. So sit down with your manager or whoever is in charge of the development process or hiring process in your organization and announce that you'd like to move up in the company and grow into a new role. As part of this, solicit information about next steps to achieving that goal. You know, if you have a development plan in place, there may be actionable steps that you need to take and milestones that you need to meet to get into a position where then you can be given that promotion. If you don't have a development plan, this is a great opportunity to set one up in collaboration with your manager to, again, determine a pathway and determine what you need to do to get to that next level. A part of that as well is seeking and applying constructive criticism. And this is important for multiple reasons, right? Not only is it great to get that feedback and improve your own performance because of it, but in doing so, you will show that you are flexible, that you are willing to grow, that you're a team player that can take into account the perspectives of others. And these are all very valuable attributes in a candidate. No matter what the role is, it's important to show not just the technical skills or the performance-related skills, but also those core qualifications that you have that you can bring into a higher level role. And again, as part of this, communication is key, and ongoing communication is really one of the most important things that you can do to set yourself up for a role. So not just communicating once how and why you're the best fit for a promotion, but consistently and continuously communicating that and also demonstrating that by executing and implementing the feedback that you've received. So that is one of the primary steps that you need to take, again, right off the bat, establishing that consistent communication and keeping that moving throughout the process, however long that may take. The next step is getting involved at work. Again, your performance matters, but it is not the only thing that matters, especially in a workplace setting. Cultural fit is crucial, and that is something that a lot of employers are really going to look at, especially with these internal movements. So think about your company's culture. If you're not really sure where to begin there, I would advise even going onto your company's website, taking a look at your mission statement, the values, the objectives of the company, and kind of identifying how you can be a champion of those values and identifying your role in upholding your company's culture. One great thing that you can do with this is actually just getting involved with team building activities and events at work. Even happy hours can be a great opportunity to show your dedication to your workplace, to your colleagues and your peers, not just with regard to work itself, but with a workplace environment. What can you add to that to create that positive culture and to support your colleagues? And that is going to pave the path for some very valuable relationships at work. It is always an asset to have strong relationships at work, but even more so when you are looking for a promotion, because those relationships can then be leveraged into referrals down the line and references. And that's something that we'll talk about a little bit later with regard to networking and being able to leverage your network in your favor. So getting involved at work, communicating with your supervisor, those are two core things that you can do in the workplace to improve your chances of success. Now, outside of the workplace, it's important to take the time to create a powerful resume that shows that you are the best fit for this promotion. We know that the best candidates often have the best resumes, and that is for a reason. You do not need to be a world-class writer to write a great resume. You just need to take the time and do a little bit of research to identify what exactly you need to show to stand out from the pack. Now, we see with resumes, especially for employees who have been at the same company for a number of years who might not have needed a resume for past promotions, these can often slip through the cracks. And I really urge you all to not let that happen, right? To take the time to get your resume where it needs to be and to ensure that it is up to date with all of your recent accomplishments, all of the big wins, even things that are currently in progress that you are doing at your company are important to show on the resume. And this will provide a significant competitive advantage. We'll talk a little bit later on about the idea of competing against other candidates and what you need to do to stand out there. But having a great resume is a really crucial step. So do not let that fall behind, and make sure that the resume is something that you're focusing on and adapting to the feedback and communication that you've received. Once you've built a great resume, you can also start building your online presence. Now, we've seen over the past few years that with the rising prevalence of social media, and especially in the most recent 2 years with the push for work from home, work is no longer just in an office or in the workplace. The lines have been blurred, and online is now a major platform for the professional sphere, right? The professional sphere has merged and blended with these digital factors and components. So as an employee, your online activities do reflect upon your company, either positively or negatively, and we want to make sure that that presence is positive, right? Squeaky clean reputation online is going to help you. So if there is anything on your social media, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, wherever, that you do not want your employer to see, do a scrub and make sure that your online presence reflects the professional values that you uphold so that you can be sure that you are not hindering yourself because of that online activity. From there, you can even go a step beyond, not just making sure that your reputation is clean and neutral, but going further to establish yourself as a thought leader in your field. And you can do so by sharing your expertise on platforms like LinkedIn and really establishing yourself as somebody who knows your job function, who knows your industry, and can share that with other professionals. That is going to significantly increase the value of your candidacy, right? Because you have this reputation that is not just positive, but also a reputation as a leader, that can be leveraged into more promotion opportunities or a pay raise. It provides that competitive advantage that you need. So taking the time to ensure your online presence checks all of the boxes for, again, a clean and professional slate, but also goes further than that. That is going to really help your chances. We'll talk a little bit more about LinkedIn do's and don'ts later if you have further questions on that. And these components all together are going to come together, and you will be able to deliver these various components. Again, your resume, your online presence, the communication, and your relationships to get that promotion. Beyond that, though, we've been talking a lot about the things that you need to do to give to your company, to show what you can give to your company. It's a two-way street, so we need to look at it from the other side too. And with that comes some self-reflection and identifying your own priorities with regard to your upcoming promotion or even your overall career search strategy or plan 5, 10, 15 years down the line. So start by identifying your needs, wants, and deal breakers for your upcoming role. These needs, wants, and deal breakers are going to look different for everybody. No two people have the exact same career goals or backgrounds and experiences. This is very much so case by case. And so that is why I would encourage you all to take some time, do some soul searching regarding what you want out of your future role and roles even beyond that. Here we have some examples of potential needs, wants, and deal breakers for you. Again, this is not a comprehensive list. There may be some of these things that apply to you, some may not. And you might have needs, wants, or deal breakers that go beyond this. So whatever it may be, think about that and set some benchmarks for yourself. Salary is a great example here. Maybe in your future role, you need a certain salary number. If you have that in mind, you will know what to negotiate for, you will know your own standards and what you need to see from an offer down the line. Work from home flexibility is another big one, especially with the push for remote work. If a job in the office is not a good fit for you, you need to make sure that you are articulating that, standing by that, and searching for roles that will put you in a position where you can get what you need. And with these needs, wants, and deal breakers, research plays a big role here. And I will be talking about research throughout this entire webinar because it really is the cornerstone of a good candidate, being able to do your research. It will really only empower you, right? Knowledge is power, information is power. And so having this research under your belt will improve your confidence and it will improve your prospects. So what I encourage everybody to do after thinking about your needs, wants, and deal breakers is to research similar positions to the promotion that you are pursuing on platforms like LinkedIn. And you can use the filtering tool to narrow down open roles based on, again, the qualifications that you have listed. From there, you can start to get an idea for what the general qualifications are in that field and what is expected from other companies. You can think of it like a competitive analysis, right? Competitive research to get a broader understanding of your industry overall. And you can also start to see what the standards are for things like salary, for things like remote work eligibility, whatever it may be. You'll have that knowledge and you can utilize that either for future negotiations or to help you more clearly articulate yourself and your value to your company's leadership by having an understanding of the job search overall, not just with regards to your internal company. So doing research will only help you. And again, I recommend using platforms like LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed, even Google has a great job platform. I strongly recommend you all check out the Google one. It can pull different descriptions from various sites, including directly from company websites, which you might not get on other platforms. So play around with it, do what you need to do, and start to identify these trends and requirements so that you can, again, position yourself as the best candidate, not just in your company, but overall. So we've mentioned earlier that resumes are one of the kind of first things that fall through the cracks, especially with employees who have been at a company for a long time. And we also know that a resume is a hugely important piece to whether or not you may receive a promotion. The reason for that is because promotions rarely exist in a vacuum. Essentially, what that means is that a promotion is often a direct result of a vacancy or an open role. And while many companies may look strictly internally to fill said role, there is a chance that you are competing against qualified external candidates who have seen this requisition or posting online. So you're not just competing against your peers, you're competing against these other parties, many of whom have a great resume because they are actively job searching. They're taking the time and doing that research that they need to do to set themselves up for success in their job search. So a great resume is only going to be an asset for you. Making sure that it's up to date is really key. Again, we've mentioned why that value is there. Now we're going to go back to basics here. I'm sure a lot of this is not news to you by any means, but I want to talk a little bit more about what a resume is and what its purpose is, especially through the lens of seeking a promotion. So the purpose of a resume is to communicate your strongest skills and accomplishments to show why you are an asset to a company. It is a piece of marketing material, essentially, but instead of a product being marketed, it's you, it's your candidacy. And because of that, it is a very strategic document by nature. And I think that's something that a lot of us forget. You know, it is not all encompassing. It does not need to be a manifesto or a laundry list or all of the tasks you've ever done. It needs to be persuasive and informative. Again, very strategic to ultimately win you an interview. That is always the goal with a resume, is to get you to the next step and get you an interview. From that point, you can discuss your qualifications in greater detail, expand upon any accomplishments, talk about additional wins that might have been cut due to those strategic reasons. And that is what you are looking for, right? To get through the door and to attract a hiring manager with your resume. But beyond that, it's also a very powerful tool in constructing your professional brand. You know, in addition to being a history of your career accomplishments, it can show your professionalism. It can show your skills. It can also show things like your work ethic and the values that you bring to the table, the qualities that you have that other people may not. So in addition to being a functional document, it can also be stylistic, and it can also just elevate the impact of what you are saying through those formatting and stylistic decisions, in addition to language decisions. Now, before you write anything, it's important to think about your audience, right? Who will be reading this document? And that is the same for a resume. Generally speaking, there are 4 parties that are reading your resume. Those parties being supervisors, HR managers, talent acquisition specialists, and applicant tracking systems. Now, you will notice here that one of these things is not like the other. You know, while supervisors, HR managers, and recruiters are all human beings that are paid to facilitate the talent acquisition process in some way, applicant tracking systems are not. Applicant tracking systems are a digital tool. So the eyes that are on your resume are not just human eyes, there's also a digital eye. And it's important that you are writing to both in order to be successful. You can think of the applicant tracking system like the first line of defense that you need to cross in order to get to a human being. So let's demystify the applicant tracking system a little bit. You know, there is a lot of ambiguity surrounding the ATS. And it's not as complex or scary as a lot of people may lead you to believe, but it is, important to understand the rules of the ATS, understand how to play the game so that you can win the game. So at its core, an applicant tracking system is an electronic database that stores resumes. When you submit your resume online, more often than not, it will be going directly into an ATS where it is then stored until a hiring manager, recruiter, again, these human beings, come in and input key search terms to narrow down that candidate pool. Now, depending on the company, depending on the role, there could be dozens of other applicants, even hundreds or thousands, right? It's company specific, but there is competition there. So what these applicant tracking systems do, they help lighten the burden on hiring managers by eliminating or disqualifying candidates that are not qualified with regards to these key terms. So when a hiring manager searches for a key term, the ATS scans through all the resumes included and filters out the ones that contain that key term. From there, the remaining resumes are ranked based on things like frequency of key term, its placement on the resume, boldness. All of these factors go into the ultimate ranking in which a hiring manager will view your resume. But an ATS doesn't just search for key terms. It can also be used for things like location. Geofiltering is a great example of this. Education, certifications. Let's say that a promotion is only looking for candidates that have a Bachelor of Science. The applicant tracking system can be utilized to filter out the candidates that do not, right? The idea here is that, again, you are not just writing for people. And the applicant tracking system comes with its own set of requirements and its own complications. Including things on your resume like graphics and images, text boxes, things of that nature, are going to hinder the ATS's ability to accurately parse through your resume. So even if you have all of those key terms that are being searched on your resume, if your resume's formatting does not align with what the ATS can handle, it may never be seen by a recruiter. We know that 75% of hiring professionals use an ATS. So in a typical job search, it is all but guaranteed that your resume will encounter an ATS. With internal promotions, that is not necessarily the case, right? Depending on your organization and how your organization facilitates the process, you may not need to worry about this, but either way, because of the prevalence of the ATS, it's important to keep these factors in mind and keep your resume ATS compliant. Because later down the line, that will only help if you are looking to apply to other companies. You want to make sure your resume has all of those factors. And if your resume does go into an ATS for a promotion, you want to make sure that it doesn't get unduly eliminated. As many as 75% of qualified job applicants are actually rejected by the ATS due to reasons like incorrect formatting or lack of the requisite search terms, right? You can be the best candidate for a role, but if that is not coming through with the ATS, if the ATS cannot scan your resume, you may never be seen by a recruiter or hiring manager. They will never have a chance to look at your resume. Now, I'm not trying to make the ATS seem like a big scary monster. It is not. Again, now that you have this awareness and understanding of the ATS, you will be able to formulate your resume in a way that is compliant with it. That will give you a big leg up. It is not scary, it's just important to understand how it works, because with the right strategy in place, you can be confident that your resume will not be rejected by the ATS and will get into the hands of a hiring manager. Ultimately, our goal here. Alongside the ATS, key terms are another concept that there's a lot of ambiguity surrounding, right? There's a lot of ideas about what a key term is, what a buzzword is, where to find them. And I wish there was a magic list of key terms that are the ticket to passing through an ATS, but unfortunately that is not the case. A key term is a phrase or business term that will likely be searched in the ATS to narrow down that candidate pool. And again, the key word here is likely. We can never know what a recruiter or a hiring professional is going to search on any given days. That's where the human element of the job search comes in, right? There's a lot of uncertainty. Everybody is different, but we do know that key terms for a role are most often found in the job description itself. If you have a job description for the promotion that you are pursuing, maybe an older one or a current one, you will have all of the tools that you need to blend these key terms into your resume. Because again, these hiring professionals are searching for specific qualifications from each specific role. When it comes to key terms, it might be helpful to think of it as almost like a two-tiered structure. The first tier of key terms being much broader, right? Key to the industry, role, and generally accepted qualifications for a job title. Now, this tier of key terms is something that you will likely see when doing your research on LinkedIn. Again, like we talked about with needs, wants, and deal breakers, going through various competitor job descriptions and identifying those trends in language that they are using. Those are going to be your, again, broader industry key terms. The second tier of key terms is specific to each and every individual position that you apply for. So for a promotion, you need to make sure that you are modifying your resume to include the very specific language of that promotion. Every time that you apply for any role, you should be making changes to your resume. It sounds like a lot of work, but I promise you, taking the time to customize your resume will save you so much time in the long run, because you will be getting much more quality results than if you were just submitting the same resume every single time to 100 roles. So always making sure to keep an eye out for key terms, look for trends in language, and incorporate the specific role qualifications in your resume. All right, so moving on to professional branding, establishing your online presence and also developing a network and leveraging a network. We'll start out by talking about, what a network is, what are the components of a network. And generally speaking, your network is comprised of, again, 4 main parties, give or take. The first being recruiters and headhunters, second being current and former colleagues, the third being hiring managers internally or externally, and then also industry professionals. Now, this is what we think of when we talk about a professional network, right? The relationships that you have built, and on platforms like LinkedIn, the connections that you have added. So all of these different parties in your network can provide value to you and can help you on your career journey, moving up to the next step on the ladder. When it comes to your internal network, we're focusing mostly on your colleagues and your manager, as well as any other cross-functional counterparts you may have in the role, or any key clients, things of that nature, right? So that is your network, and you can use that to your advantage. When it comes to referrals, there are just a proven track record of how people that are referred to a role are far more successful and far more likely to be selected for a role. Now, a lot of the data that we'll be talking about with regards to this right now is more related to the job search as a whole, not just specifically with promotions, but I think that these numbers are very, very telling and can really show the value of having relationships at work that can help you springboard to the next level. So we know that up to 85% of open jobs are filled through networking, which is a huge number, all things considered, right? And we also know that while a small percentage of applicants are referred to a role, referrals make a large chunk of new hires. So being referred ultimately, gives you a leg up on other competitors with a job search. Not only does it make you more likely to be selected for a role, it's also more likely that you will stay in a role for 3 years or longer when you have those relationships and when you have that personal referral connection to a company. So these relationships that you have been building at team building events, at work, in the office, wherever it may be, can help you with your promotion. I encourage everybody to lean on your colleagues and help support them, and then they will help support you. And that can be the difference between whether or not you do receive a promotion. So always focus on your relationships. Always be sure to communicate with your supervisor, with your team members, to do what you can for one another and help each other out on your own professional growth journeys. When it comes to the online component of a network, this is where, again, LinkedIn comes in. Building your connections online, building an online network, and building a reputation that is clean, polished, and professional, and will help you get to the next step of your career. So here we have some do's and don'ts for LinkedIn, and this is just to make sure that your page is professional and, again, in line with your professional values and what you have been demonstrating at work. So do update your LinkedIn profile to align with the experience listed on your resume. We do not want any major differences between your resume and your LinkedIn page because that could cause red flags in the eyes of a hiring manager. We also want to make sure that we are, again, staying up to date with the skills and qualifications that are being added to your LinkedIn page. Just like the resume, we always want to make sure that our materials are up to date. You never know when a great opportunity comes up, and it is always better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. So keep everything, again, up to date with the most current and relevant accomplishments. On the flip side of that, we don't want to include too many quantifiable metrics about job performance, especially if you are currently working for a company, depending on privacy. Try to keep the metrics off of the LinkedIn page. That can be discussed on your resume or in an interview itself. Just have discretion as you need to with your LinkedIn page and be sure that you are not giving away all of your wonderful accomplishments. Save some of that for the resume and for an interview. Another do, and this can help on the networking side, is do join professional groups that pertain to your industry and job function. This is a great way to meet new professionals in your field, to build your referral network and your relationship network, and also just to stay abreast of trends in the job search, in the job market for your specific job function, and just overall, again, best practices there. So do join those groups and don't be afraid to share your own knowledge with these people. That will help you establish your reputation as a thought leader. Do not partake in debates or arguments in the comments section. We want to maintain as professional a demeanor as possible on LinkedIn. So avoid any of that. We don't want an employer to think that you're combative. Even if the person who started the argument is being completely crazy, we do not want to go that route. So stay away from that. And again, treat LinkedIn and treat your online presence like you would treat an office. Do give and ask for recommendations. This is a great way to kind of add value to your candidacy by leaning on your colleagues and, again, your business relationships to talk about the skills that you bring to the table. If you go on LinkedIn, at the very bottom of your profile, you will find the recommendations section. You can offer to trade recommendations with a colleague. I would recommend leaving recommendations for the people that you've worked with. That can help encourage them to leave you a recommendation, and just overall can serve as a reference and testament to your professionalism and excellence. Do not post sensitive information about your job search if you are currently employed. This is more pertaining to individuals who are seeking a promotion but also might be pursuing other opportunities. We just want to make sure that we're maintaining discretion on these platforms, especially if you are considering leaving if you do not get a promotion. We do not want to advertise that or make that known online. So there are a lot of security settings on LinkedIn that you can go through for visibility and privacy. I encourage you all to check those out if you haven't already, just to keep the desired level of security on your profile, again, depending on who you do and do not want viewing your page. Our final do here is do engage with posts on your dashboard. If you see an article that you like, give it a like. Feel free to comment. That can help improve your visibility online. It can lead to more relationships and more connections, and again, goes on to further establish yourself as a thought leader in your field, which is, of course, the goal. And do not post or like any inappropriate content. Again, we want to make sure that we are being as professional as possible, and we don't want any unsavory content to stand in the way of your promotion. So check out those security settings, do what you need to do, and I would recommend doing a quick Google search of yourself. If you've gone through all of your social media and adjusted the privacy, adjusted the content, you can Google your name, see what comes up, and if everything looks good, you should be good to go. Some additional tips here on kind of increasing your online visibility, improving your online brand and reputation. You can add up to 50 skills to your LinkedIn profile. I would strongly recommend that everybody takes the time to add all 50 skills to their profile. And these skills can actually be key terms that you've gotten from your research, from the specific role that you're targeting, but also from the other roles that you have seen online. Don't be afraid to include those key terms in your skills section, because that will improve, again, your profile's recruiter visibility. It will improve your chances of being contacted on LinkedIn, and it just really shows the impact of your expertise and highlights that once again, so that you're not just showing these skills on your resume, you're showing them on your LinkedIn as well. Another thing to increase your online visibility is uploading a current and professional headshot. This improves your profile views, and it can also just make the profile feel a little bit more complete, a little bit more professional. So if you do not have a LinkedIn picture, you can either use an old picture that you have, or you can take a new one. Our recommendation would just be to find a clean, neutral background, wear a business casual or professional shirt and jacket, depending on whatever that may mean for you. And keep the photo from the shoulders up with a smile or a neutral face. Just again, keeping it professional. We don't want to use any pictures that may have negative connotations. No pictures from while you're out partying. Keeping it, again, very professional. We can also update those privacy and visibility settings to align with your desired level of discretion. Nobody has the same needs when it comes to LinkedIn and security and privacy. So make those choices for yourself. But if you haven't done anything there, I would check it out. And then finally, connect with recruiters and hiring professionals at the organizations that you're interested in joining. So even though you are pursuing a promotion at your current company, if there are other organizations that are interesting to you, don't be afraid to connect with individuals at those organizations. Start building those relationships, and who knows, 5-10 years down the line, you can leverage that into a referral into their company. So strongly recommend, again, reaching out, building connections, and just building that network of relationships as one of the ultimate steps in really setting yourself up for success with a promotion. All right. So that is all we have for you today. I wanted to thank you all so much for taking the time to join me as we talked about some of these strategies. Right now, we will be holding a question and answer session. So if any of you have questions about what we've discussed today on the webinar, if you have any other questions, I am happy to answer them. And if I don't have an answer for you, I will be sure to connect you with somebody who does. All right, and so we have a question here. How do you know if it's too soon to ask for a promotion when you're a greener professional? That is a great question. And the answer is, it is dependent on who you are. It depends on your company. But I would ask around your colleagues if any of them have been promoted into similar roles. Talk to them about timelines. What did they experience? Get an understanding of the process on their end. Once you do that, you can get an idea of, again, what the appropriate timeline is and bring it up with your supervisor. And if you are worried about maybe coming off as too eager, you can always set up the conversation with your supervisor as more of an exploration, right? Instead of directly saying, I am seeking this promotion soon, you can talk about, in a more broader sense, what needs to be done to get to a promotion. And again, really show that you're excited to grow with the company. I think you can really frame it that way so that it's not you, again, coming across as, asking too soon, but instead being proactive about your own development within a company. Another question here, how often should you be posting on LinkedIn when trying to be a thought leader? This is a great question. There is no, set benchmark that you should be hitting every day. You definitely do not need to be posting every day unless you want to. But I would just encourage you, if you, once a week or when you have time, think about what you want to say. Think about what you want to display regarding your profession, regarding your knowledge, and you can either contribute that as post that you have written yourself that you are adding to your feed, or you can comment, right? There is no specific way to become a thought leader, right? It's more so about being open and willing to share your knowledge with others, to share your experience with others. So use your discretion. If you feel like you're posting way too much, you can, pull back from that. You do not need to be posting multiple times a day to be a thought leader. It's more so about the quality of what you have to say. And again, if you don't know what you want to say, responding to other people and encouraging other people is a great way to kind of fill the gap there. A final question here, is the Great Resignation a good time to ask for a promotion? So we have been seeing, in the past months, this wave of voluntary separations, voluntary resignations, right, from companies. There is a lot of ambiguity. And some people may be deterred for asking for a promotion in a time of turnover. Maybe you've been seeing in your department a lot of people are leaving. Now, if because of this wave of resignations, you are taking on more responsibilities, you can absolutely use this time to, again, ask for promotion. My recommendation would be, again, framing it as an ongoing, continuous conversation. We are not walking in and demanding a promotion. We are talking about what are actionable steps that we need to take to get to that point, both on your end and on the end of an employer. And with that, again, whenever asking for promotion, take some time to do your research. Again, look at other roles, especially if you've been taking on increased responsibility because of resignations. Look for salary standards for similar functions at other companies, and you can bring that knowledge in to inform that discussion a little bit more. All right, a question here. Jeremy asks, can you just like posts for building your profile on LinkedIn? You can certainly just like posts, but I would recommend going a little bit further beyond that. If LinkedIn is not a platform that you have used a lot, maybe it's not a platform that you're comfortable with, I think starting to like things, starting to engage with other people's content is a really good way to get a feel for the kind of thought leadership that is being disseminated on LinkedIn. So starting out with liking posts, and if you start liking posts consistently, you will see an increase in engagement. And from there, once you are feeling more confident with what you want to say on this platform, you can turn that into commenting, and you can turn that again into maybe ultimately creating your own posts or sharing your own media. All right, and a question about adding vaccination status to LinkedIn profiles. This is in terms of like the image on the profile, you can absolutely do this. There are workplaces that are specifically soliciting employees that have been vaccinated. Of course, again, it depends on the workplace. It depends on what you are going for. I would recommend, if you are going that route, make sure that you are keeping that in line with the companies that you're applying for, right? If you are seeing in your research that companies are specifically soliciting vaccinated candidates, you can add that to your picture. However, I will say they will likely ask about vaccination status later on. So it is not necessary to do on your profile unless that is something that, again, you want to make sure that you are projecting as a part of your professional brand and a part of the attributes that you bring, but it's not necessary. And with regard to profile banners, by the way, I'm sure some of you might have seen this, but there are multiple options for photo banners that you can do, whether it's looking for work, there's one that's hiring. You can take a look at all of those. And again, if there is something about yourself that you want to show from that picture, you can select whichever banner that you want to. But again, these are not necessary. If you're looking for work, you don't necessarily need to show that on your profile, but it will give recruiters an idea that they should reach out to you. So for an internal promotion, these aren't quite as relevant, but again, all depends on what you want to establish as part of your professional brand. All right, bear with me for a moment. I will get to the rest of your questions. Just give me one moment. All right, and a question here. If you've been in a role for less than a year but realize it's not for you, is it appropriate to begin a new search after 6 months in this role? And that's a great question as well. Job tenure is something that we think about when it comes to resumes. That's something that a lot of recruiters look for, is how long were you at a certain job? Now, I would say it is certainly appropriate to begin a search. If you know that the company and role that you're with is not a good fit for you, you know that you are not going to be happy in this role or not successful in this role, you can absolutely begin a new search. Now, we also know that job seekers who are actively employed are more likely to be hired. So having a current role and staying in that role during your job search can improve your chances of securing a new role. The only thing that we want to avoid is multiple short-term roles, right? And that can lead to the impression that someone might be job hopping or whatever it may be. But if you know that this is not a good fit for you, it is certainly appropriate to begin a new search. I would just recommend, keeping that search going while you are currently employed to improve your chances of being hired for a new role. And then searching for a new role that feels more in line with your goals moving forward and building tenure there. All right. Thank you all so much for joining me today. It has been a pleasure to speak about this with you. If you have any other questions or if there's anything else that you'd like to get a little bit more clarity on, again, please feel free to send me a connection on LinkedIn and message me with any thoughts that you may have. I'll be sure to get back to you. And again, you can always check out our website at employmentboost.com. But thank you all so much for your time. I hope you all have a wonderful rest